this year and kind of do a best in show of the Automation Fair. So Automation Fair was last month, of course, in November, and I tasked Bill and myself to kind of, as we walked the show, to kind of look at what's the best, what were some of the best new things we saw, as well as kind of give us a little bit of a glimpse as to what's coming into 2017. So, speaking of 2017, we do have a couple of some topics that we're starting to kind of get solidified here. Of course, everything you see is the dates are pretty well set. The topics are always fluid; things could change. But this is kind of what we're thinking about going into the first half of 2017. Thin clients in January. The idea of thin client is more around the hardware around a thin client and maybe some best practices of how to in our industrial environments that we work in. We'll kind of revisit the power quality in February, and then a little bit of a cybersecurity refresh we thought would be in order, and then high performance automation. And although June is National Safety Month, we typically don't do a users group in June for the summer break, so we figure we'd do Safety Month in May with maybe a lockout, tag out, and arc flash type discussion. So, so with that, I'm going to let Chris kind of give a little general overview of Automation Fair and what we're trying to pull together here today. Chris?
Excellent. Thank you, Wayne. This year's Automation Fair, oops, sorry about that. Next slide. This Automation Fair, we showcased how we move and with our smart technology. So how we were able to get that accomplished was, we had 165 exhibits featuring solutions, 95 tech sessions, 19 hands-on labs. I believe that ending participation number was something like 7,000 customers, which was the largest outside of the Chicago area fairs that we've had in recent past. So it was a relatively productive show from the standpoint of customers coming out. If you missed that, again, this is why we're having this best in class, best in show messaging so that you could see what was there. Next slide. A couple snapshots of the fair. Demonstrates just how big the venue was. So we had a lot of folks there. It was the largest size venue we had. I'm waiting for my screen to update. So in front of you, you see some of the sensor switches and Elvis standing there at the bottom, and then also a picture of the hands-on lab. So again, from a square footage standpoint, it was the largest show, largest area that we have held a fair in. Next slide. So we have, I'm waiting for the slide to, good. So this is an overview shot. That's okay. It's an overview shot of the fair in Atlanta. The funny thing about that is we had some side conversations and backroom sessions, and I remember walking at least a mile and a half to get to those rooms. And quite often, for those who have Fitbits or tracks their steps, I had 17 to 20,000 steps a day after leaving the floor. So again, it was quite a large event. So what did we try and get done here, and what are we going to give to you? Next slide, please. So typically at our fair, we showcase what's new and what's brightest with our innovation booths, and we slice and dice the different segments, whether it's power, whether it's integrated architecture, or our components areas with safety switches and things like I/O link, but they all serve a bigger, better purpose. The connected enterprise is our term for being able to connect all of the different pieces, parts. Next slide. Headquarters, smart grid, supply chain, field-based assets, and such. How do we quantify, optimize, and analyze the likes of all this information that's being passed? So there are three tenets that we typically use for defining what our connected enterprise may or may not be for a lot of you. Visibility, so that you can have an idea what the operations and logistics are for your facilities, your rigs, your processes. The second thing is collaboration, next slide, between people and their teams. And then once you take those two tenets, how do you effectively optimize that information into something that's sustainable? So contemporary technologies enhance our connected enterprise. That's the tenet that's above on this slide. But as you all know, multidiscipline control we've been doing for years with the likes of our ControlLogix system and our CompactLogix system. We've introduced you all to secure network infrastructure with the services teams, as well as our hardware and what that may mean from a Cisco hardware collaborative effort from hardware with our Stratix line, as well as how do we digitally sign information on our Ethernet bridges, whatever platform they may exist on from a integrated architecture standpoint, rolling in through a motor control center type of solution. Last year, we introduced a very strong effort for mobility and visualization. So we unhandcuffed ourselves from using Silverlight to an HTML5 solution set to open up the likes of using portable devices like your tablets and your phones, so that you could contextually see information that normally would be shown on an engineering workstation or some sort of closed venue like that. Next slide. The two things that we're focusing on this year that were prominent at the fair were scalable computing for cloud-based type of computing and information management analytics. Now, those two tenets fall in very nicely into what we've been promoting with the likes of our L8 and our 5480 products, which we'll get into today, with our high performance architecture. How can we get more data at real time to make better business decisions with the use of smart technology? So again, we have scalable multidiscipline control with our control systems. We utilize the likes of certification bodies such as ISA or OSHA from a process safety standpoint to TUV from a machine safety standpoint. We add layers of security from a secure reference architecture standpoint, whether it is at the device level or traffic that's traveling up through the engineering workstation, with the use of many different types of switches and bridges that control the data in a manner that we use over Ethernet IP. Collaborating all that information, collecting all that information with a concentrator in analytics, albeit a web reporting structure with Vantage Point, or with our manufacturing intelligence, or using our FactoryTalk suite of products to be able to use that information when you're viewing it. And then using the Ethernet to pass real-time information, next slide, so that you can start to understand how your machines and assets work from a diagnostics and prognostics standpoint, so that you can make an intelligent business decision, albeit real-time, over control or not. The second thing that I want to talk about today, and you'll see this slide again, is how do we get to a connected enterprise standpoint? You know, with our three tenets of people, processes, and technology, albeit everything is the same for connecting, being able to connect islands of information, using that information, what's available for standards technology, and making that scalable or expanding it securely. Once we have that sort of connectivity, then we are able to now evaluate what the data is telling us, from what's going on from a health standpoint of the assets, how we define what those bounds are based on our processes, and then and then trying to understand exactly what information is needed. Once that's in play, then we can now collect that information and start to organize it in a manner that makes good business sense. And then we can leverage Ethernet IP as a connected solution to all of our different smart assets and devices to present this information to our operators and our stakeholders in the process, albeit plant managers, I&E engineers, I&E folks, or anyone that needs to take that data and use the real-time information to optimize the process. So we've enabled ourselves by expanding our reach of diagnostics by using Ethernet IP and building in an analytic engine that can pull that information out over Ethernet so that you can make better business decisions and improve your business impact. Next slide. So the overall theme, without a doubt, for us is how do we take, next slide, all of these different product silos that we've always talked about and provide a comprehensive solution. So the first step with cloud computing, but more importantly, getting analytics and diagnostics, is to define what a smart machine looks like. The definition that you see in front of you says that the smart machine allows you to turn data into action in real time, allowing for high-level autonomy. A smart machine is self-aware, self-monitoring, and self-healing. Now, ideally, that sounds awesome. But more importantly, taking that information and being able to react to real-time data and using information as a modeling technique for mathematic purposes, such as predictive modeling, is ideally what we want to see happen. But the first thing that has to happen is we have to get that information with the technology over Ethernet IP, drive the analytics from the knowledge that you find for having predictive information over that time period, whether it's, there's a predictive bearing that's going to fail in 10 hours, or you're firing relays that's at its in life at 95% of its lifespan, and then being able to use the people to help make actions or build models so that the machine itself can make better, you can make better decisions from an OEE standpoint. Next slide. So we introduced give you a little bit of a tickler of what smart means from the standpoint of FactoryTalk analytics later in this presentation. And those are separated into cloud-based computing, as I talked about a little bit earlier, FactoryTalk analytics for machines and devices. And then there's also another type of analytic that can be done by using mobile technology. So the characteristics of smart machines, again, allows us to access real-time information, log this information, analyzing it quickly to make good business optimized decisions on our processes. It gives us a greater value for connectivity, using our network, or secure network infrastructures, I might add, enabling real-time information to be shown, used, and collaborated both up and downstream of the process. And lastly, making sure that we're adding layers of security, because nothing's ever fully secure, but adding layers of security to deter intrusive attacks on our systems, albeit control systems or entire processes, whether they're skids, plants, or platforms. So we want to make sure that everyone owns their real-time data, but you have to be able to get at the information. And the fair's automation fair this year was focused on showing applications and use of products using our Ethernet IP technology to show solutions, and I thought it was pretty effective. Next slide. So again, I said earlier that you're going to see this running theme of 5 tenets to be able to first of all make sure that getting real-time information, next slide, is getting information to better understand our operation effectiveness and productivity at a lower level. So the 5 tenets to doing that with improving our machine builders information that goes into our end users that allow us to eventually take those different devices and have analytics are all centered around the same prospect of what connected enterprise is. We have to first connect, evaluate, then we collect the information, present it in a way over visualization, and then we can optimize that information. And that can be said not only smart machines, but with your control system, basic process control systems, your safety systems, your motor control centers or your variable speed drives, having HART or I/O link type of information at the device level, and even being able to map that down to a safety map or a edge curtain that gives you some visibility of what may have tripped if someone opened up a door and the coding wasn't right to stop a high inertia piece of machinery from cutting their hand off, to being able to stop a chemical reaction in a process safety solution set. So again, be able to have massive amounts of data to cherry pick the information that's necessary for your processes to be and your machines to be safe, but more importantly smart, to make educated, informed decisions on your devices and processes. What machine smart machines and the connected enterprise is, what it is for Rockwell Automation, for what we're doing at the fair. And I think this ends my section for we can jump right into the productivity tools.
All right, thanks, Chris. And next will be Bill with some of the best things on components, device level for the machine. Thanks.
So yeah, we're going to jump right into the productivity tools. One of the productivity tools that myself and Wayne have been helping engineering firms and then systems integrators, and now we're getting into end users, is with some of the free tools that Rockwell offers. One is the production selection. It's all underneath the production or product selection toolbox. But one of them is IAB and the other one is Piezoelectrical. For IAB, if you're familiar with it, you probably used it in your desktop, but what Rockwell has done is put it on a mobile app. And we actually Wayne and I actually got to see it in use. It was actually pretty innovative. The new things that are coming out in the mobile app is being able to use it out in the field to help migrate PLC5 controllers and also SLC 500 over to the CompactLogix. And then also with the Piezoelectrical, one of the key tools that's coming out, and one of our account managers asked about it today, was the life cycle status and the bill of materials. That is going to come out in the next version, which is version 10, I believe it is. But those are some really nice key features for the Piezoelectrical. And if you have not used it, feel free to ask Wayne and I, and we can help do a demonstration of it. We actually offer lunch and learns to do that, in which we explain it and we show a demo. Next slide. So what we're going to jump into now is basically the low end of the discussion having, especially with the the low tech, as Wayne likes to say. But it starts off with this level. Say it was the dumb stuff, right? But now, with what's being inputted in, this next slide, we're going to start off with one of the things is the 800K piezoelectric push button. That's a pretty neat technology. And actually, here in the audience, we actually have some samples. So I'm going to pass the samples around. We have it both in 30 millimeter and I forget what the other one is, 21, I believe. Anyway, the key features of this is that it's IP69 rated. It has 316 stainless steel, so its ideal use is either in the food and beverage area or in chemical caustic areas. If you look at it and feel with it, it also has a potted circuit on the back, so it avoids corrosion. But if you actually feel it, you might be familiar with it because sometimes you have seen it probably in an elevator. So that, but it lights up. It's a pretty cool push button because even on the low level, it helps to address some of the features of specifically in the industries of food and beverage and chemicals. Next. So now we're going to go up a little bit into what has traditionally been just proc sensors and photo sensors, which were either analog or they were discrete. What Alan Bradley has done is they use IO-Link, which is a open communications protocol that's available. And there's two different ways now that it can be used to get the information from the actual end device up further. And one is shown here in this sample here where it's using the point.io master. The recent new device is the actual iArmor block, which is an IP67 rated. I'll jump into that in the next one, but on this I just wanted to address that there's some expanded I/O sensors that they have put out, which is the pressure sensors, temperature sensors, background suppression, color sensors, and as they go further, they're going to be replacing all of their existing sensors with the I/O technology, IO-Link technology in it, and it's not at an additional cost. So it'll be at the same cost, but that'll be in it. So if a customer is not using the IO-Link right now, they can still purchase it, and in the future, if they want to start addressing the IO-Link technology, they can. What are the key features of the IO-Link technology is you can have detailed diagnostics come back from it. You can identify the device, which is easy, so that in case a device gets knocked off or it becomes malfunctioning, you can easily replace it, and it will automatically place your parameters back into it. Plus, you can get multi-bit I/O data messaging back and forth, so you can get a lot of information more than just discrete or analog signals. Next. So one of the first ones is this pressure sensor, and I'll pass this along. We have both the pressure sensor and the display version and the non-display. I'll pass this along on this side. Key features on the display model is that it's up to 8,000 psi, and the display can be rotated 320 degrees, the head 330 degrees. It's IP67 rated also, so that's a good feature. And then with the non-display, it's 10,000 psi. But the information that you can get back is one of the key features because it's also IO-Link. Next one. And then right now, the temperature sensors, we actually have both the RTD and the solid state. The little one is the RTD one. But again, there's a lot of information that can come back and forth. Temperature ratings up to 392 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can actually get your a large amount of information back. Let's go to the next one. Then they have the flat pack inductive proximity sensors, which is the sensors that you can use in certain applications that are in small housing. This is now in stainless steel also, so you can use it in harsh environments. So they're trying to address a lot of the what the industry is looking for as far as information coming back and the sizing and capabilities. Next one. And then this one is Ethernet IP. So the reason why they used IO-Link technology is both to keep down the cost and to use the available technology to get information back. With IO-Link, the protocol is that it's 20 meters between the actual master and the end device. So that's why they have either the point the actual armor IO link master. This is pretty neat though, because you can actually put it on a machine and just hook up your devices to them. But with this Ethernet IP with the code reader, I haven't actually got the sample, but it's the smallest industrial reader, so that's makes it where it can be used in a lot of different applications. Next one. And then going up into the actual panel, a lot of this stuff is out in the field, so the end devices. But coming back into the panel, what Alan Bradley or Rockwell has come out with is this basic switch mode power supply. So it addresses the fact that you had and now you have 3 different ways that you can deal with your power supplies. Your top excellence, which means that you have pretty much 150% inrush, but then you also have now your basic switch. So this is very good as far as cost, but also gets you 91% efficiency, which cuts down on the heat within a panel that's produced. So that's one of the latest things that was best to show. And the next one, we are getting this, which is the Anybus wireless bolt. That's a pretty good solution, especially field equipment where you're trying to get a wireless network. I know that the top part is red IP67, so I think some of the applications that we know about that it's been used in is pretty cool is trucks, so it can be placed actually on trucks. One we're trying to get it into is a truck operation in which they have a fish aerator in the trailer, and yet the driver needs to know the information because he's actually delivered on a couple of times some dead fish. So he actually needed to know up in the cab whether the oxygen levels were truly being provided for the fish. Next. Next one is softing. Softing now has a cable master which is able to test networks and coax cables. It's at a pretty good price point. Up here in the front, here at the in front of the audience, we have a couple of them, just samples of existing ones. One is a certified cable system checker. It's for both ends. That one, actually, one of the account managers here, Dean Bickerton in New Orleans, has it, and it's for rent. So if you ever want to use it, because it's a little bit pricey if you're going to only be using it once or twice, feel free to contact him. Another one is a net cable qualifier, so that's another one that can be purchased or but the recent one is this Cable Master, which is great for testing, fault finding within cables at a pretty good, reasonable price too, and you can get some reports out of it. Next. And this one is Spectrum Controls. They have three new modules. One is an 8-channel universal analog input. And this particular display here at the, again back here, we actually have the 850 on the top, and then at the very end is the Spectrum 8-channel universal analog input. So that means that it can be used for RTDs or for any mix of inputs that you want. Thermocouple. And then next is the web-port remote access. So you can use this particular device to be able to VPN remote access to help avoid costly maintenance trips when you're trying to diagnose or look at a particular system. And I believe that is it for me. So,
thanks, Bill. So we're gonna the last half or the last portion of this will be the high-tech stuff. So we figured we kind of broke this down into best in controllers, and then we have kind of best in networking, and we have best in software. So that's kind of our last three sections here. And again, I apologize. I know the web is lagging pretty bad behind what we're saying, so I'm not sure what our issues are today. So really, best in controllers by hands down would go to what is the high performance automation portfolio now. Because as of last year, the L8 controller for the CompactLogix was released at Automation Fair, and that was really it, right? We had one kind of high performance product, and then earlier this year, the CompactLogix version of it came out, the 5380, and basically both of those months perhaps of 2017. So as we get more information on this, we will definitely be sharing about that. A couple of other things to note. This actually has 3 gig Ethernet ports on the front, and what's hiding underneath, if you can kind of take the product and rotate it at the bottom, is I think a display port, so you can actually plug your monitor right into there, right? And I think there is one additional gig Ethernet port in the bottom as well that kind of gets you into the host operating system. So very, very unique product, and something that we're kind of excited to see, because it's going to be, like I said, going to be interesting to see where our users take that product.
One more thing to add to that is there are 2 fans that are situated above that display and below, and they work in tandem to pull air through the 4 cores that are there, because it will run quite hot. So those are detachable. They will work independent of one another if there is a failure, so that provides an extra sense of, for those who run in warmer environments. Well, this will be a closed room type deal, and we'll get into that, but just know that those fans do exist.
Right, thanks. Yes, and if anytime you hear the word fan, then that would pretty much rule out a Class 1 Div 2 type installation. But I think, again, this is going to be a pretty interesting product. I think we had a question, Fong, right here in the room.
Does Rockwell provide the connectivity between that Windows IoT platform and the Logix?
Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you can hear that, or what I wanted to, the question was: is there does Rockwell have that connection between the Windows side and the Logix side? Would be some kind of internal hooks and handles between the 2?
Yeah, there's an internal hand. They run independent of one another. So if there is a virus or something like that with the open cores that you're using for the Microsoft OS, it will not contaminate or infect your control system with your with the Logix engine on it. But we do have on the inside of the device there is a connection set that allows you to that will allow you to go from an OS, operating system to our Logix set up within the controller. So that's the neat thing about the box is you could have the likes of 3 independent cores running FactoryTalk instances as an example, as well as having the likes of a standard controller system that will house a 5069 bank that you see to the right, both internal, and then you can add to that as an example in one sitting in a controlled closed environment.
Yes. Yep. I don't know if you could hear that. Dean was basically saying that it links OPC UA and API calls between. Chris alluded to the 5069 I/O. So of course, with these 2 new CompactLogix controllers, the 5380 and the 5480, there is a new I/O platform that goes along with it, the 5069 I/O platform. And this picture here is kind of shows you what it looks like. So they kind of stack it. This is a DIN rail mounted product, and they just kind of stack on to the to the right hand CPU, go on out. And again, performance is the name of the game here. So the I/O has a faster throughput back to the controller. So high performance controllers and I/O. Again, for a machine builder, and this gets back to that, the overall theme of the smarter machines. So now you got, smarter machines. Now you got smarter, more powerful controllers and I/O that can go on that machine as well. All right. So next was kind of best of networking, and there's really two things that was kind of highlighted at the show this year. 2 new products, both in the Stratix with the Stratix branding in front. First is the Stratix 2500 lightly managed. So the 5700 is a fully managed switch, shall we say? Great product. But again, sometimes that was just a lot of switch for the application, right? You know, a lot of horsepower, a lot of capability there that perhaps you didn't need in your application. So the Stratix 2500 lightly managed switch is really kind of geared, again, probably at that machine level where you have a, you don't have to have all of the, you know, again, all of the full feature set of the larger switch, but still gives you a lot of capability that you expect and need for your security and connectivity requirements. So 5 and an 8 port here to start out in the family, and I think there is, of course, the AOP. So there's an AOP add-on profile that allows you to bring that data out of the switch and into Studio 5000, just like the larger 5700 switch. There are face plates, so you can actually monitor that switch, you know, in your FactoryTalk applications. It'll do VLAN, it'll do syslog, DHCP per port, and port security. So all, again, those are features that are very important to you. STP, so spanning tree, rapid spanning tree. So they do have that kind of resiliency capability built into it as well, and even cable diagnostics. This slide just kind of covered what I was just saying, but a little bit more detail. So port security, you can go down to you know, disabling ports or allow, you know, kind of doing your MAC-based you know, connectivity based on the particular MAC address. DHCP ports, so you can assign your, you know, your IP address out to that device. So again, for a machine builder, that's great because, you know, like some of these smart devices we're talking about now, you know, you don't have to necessarily put an IP address into them. You just plug it in, and the switch will, using DHCP, will give the IP address to that device. Quick and easy replacement, shorter downtime. VLANs, again, for your logical segmentation. That's basically allowing you to have less, you know, perhaps less network and infrastructure, less switches to, and still have your segmentation of your devices. And again, spanning tree for loop preventions and some cable diagnostics. One more slide just kind of reiterates here, so I'm going to kind of go through this quickly, but kind of what we're talking about here. Again, you're increasing your security, you're reducing your you know, your total cost of ownership, and, you know, reducing your downtime based on the diagnostics you can get out of your device. So that's the real value statement of this whole Stratix family, is that you're getting that information. If you're using a ControlLogix or a CompactLogix controller and you have a Stratix switch in there, you know, then all that data, all that information, all that configuration comes into Studio 5000, allows you one tool to really configure your automation system. So I think one of the main themes of 2016 has been cybersecurity, and I think that theme will continue into 2017 for sure. That cybersecurity is not going to go away anytime soon. The main thing that I think you hear any cybersecurity expert stress, and Rockwell, of course, is that it's a system, right? So it's not just one thing that you put in there, right? We just don't put a password in the controller and say, oh, good, we're secure, we can kind of go away, right? So I like this slide because it kind of showed some of the major tenets, I would say, of industrial security, automation security. You know, tamper detection, right? Can you detect if somebody has gone in there and made a change, right? Maybe it's somebody you know is supposed to go in there and make a change, but can you detect that? You know, perhaps it's also a change that you don't know about. Can you detect that? Secure network infrastructure. So that's basically, you know, kind of your traditional control access, right? Can you get into the network? Can you detect that unwanted access and activity? Content protection kind of gets, you know, that's more into the, okay, so, you know, here is somebody tampering with your code, but content protection is, you know, can somebody get in there and steal your code? Can they view it? You know, there's some IP, you know, intellectual property type of content protection there for you as an OEM or as an end user. And then access control and policy management. So that's getting into the, you know, the larger. Again, that's a complete system or a complete procedure or SOP as a user about who, what, where, when can you gain access. Can your visitors get in? What plant personnel can access that equipment, right? So our next product, the highlight, the new product release, the Stratix 5950, fits in that secure network infrastructure space. And this actually is a product that is out today and is shipping. This just came out in the last 2 months or so, last half of last quarter here of 2016. And the 5950 is a security appliance, and like all of our Stratix products, it's a Cisco, Cisco under the hood. With Allen Bradley and Cisco Rockwell have gone in together with this. So basically, you're looking at the this is a. Let me get to the next slide. So it's using Cisco's adaptive security appliance, ASA firewall technology. It's also using the firepower technology, which is I think the intrusion, kind of their intrusion detection technology. So that's all underneath the hood. And the other big thing here is DPI, or deep packet inspection. So now, in addition to being an industrial firewall, it's actually going to look at that packet of information that's going through it, analyze it, and if it doesn't like it or doesn't recognize it as being proper SIP or Modbus, it's going to reject it. All right, spit it out, stop it right there, and not allow it through. So that is definitely helping you. We want the firewall, and intrusion detection. So kind of keeping the, should be keeping the traffic out that you put in there. You can kind of set the rules of what can go through and what can't, and then go even further and say, okay, well, if it does get through the firewall, is it truly what we expect it to be? I'm going to skip that slide because a little bit of it just reiterate what I was just talking about. But this is kind of how we can see this going in the architecture. So there's a lot of things in the mix here. But basically, there's a couple of different ways this product can be used. So anywhere you see the little red box is kind of where the 5950 is. So up top, right up the distribution switch, is monitor mode. So just one basic application of the product is just kind of hang it off to the side there, kind of in parallel, shall we say, and it'll just monitor the traffic, right? So I think this is a kind of a recommended first start for a lot of customers, is just put it there in monitor mode. It'll look at everything that's going through, log it, flag it, and you can start to kind of learn exactly what kind of traffic is actually coming across your network. And then when you want to go into the full firewall and the full deep packet inspection route, then you go into what's called the inline transparent mode. So basically, kind of as the name alludes, it's inline with the data, inline with the network, and it's transparent in that data will just kind of pass through. If it doesn't meet the firewall rules, or if it doesn't meet the deep packet inspection, scrutiny, then it gets stopped right there, flagged, goes into the syslog, and you can detect, that there's been a attempted, some kind of attempted intrusion. So this just kind of shows you again, right, kind of what we're talking about. So an SMP sweep or a ping sweep, it goes to the firewall, it gets stopped. But if you got a SIP class 1 or class 3, it'll make it through to the end device, right? Same thing here. You get from a laptop to the device. If it's a SIP class 3, it'll make it through the deep packet inspection, right? Just kind of just shows you how that device would kind of work. All right. So the grand finale, by far, two things here that again were probably to me were some of the show stealers, perhaps, is the FactoryTalk Analytics and the Team 1. So first, and I had planned to show a video, and I'm going to see if it'll work. So I know we're on shaky ground with our network here, but there's really not a whole lot of information out about this product yet to kind of show you slides and kind of prepackaged marketing around it. on the showroom floor, and it's kind of top secret code name at Rockwell has been Project Shelby, and you can kind of see in the picture there's a guy there in the suit, and underneath the monitor is a box. It's kind of hard to see, but this box, the idea of this box is that you will put this on your plant floor, and it'll kind of go out and sniff your network for all the devices, and it'll report back the diagnostics from everything. All right. So of course, it drives, PLC, anything that has an Ethernet port that you can go out there and it can get the diagnostics back. It'll bring it to that box, kind of aggregate it, and then it can give you real-time status on things that are questionable, healthy, or whatnot. Of course, you can get diagnostics out of all these components today, but this box will kind of help you do it automatically. So let's see. I'm going to push my luck because this video really helps kind of summarize. So let's see if this will work. There is really no audio to it, just some groovy music in the background. All right. So we actually have a link to this video, and I was going to show this here a little later, but on our kind of blog site that will be dedicated to this event, today's seminar, I have all the videos kind of posted. One for the 5480, for the 5950, as well as the this device here. So these are short little videos from the showroom floor. All right, so so the video was, so basically the idea here is that you put this box into your system, you can go out and report back diagnostics and give you that information, right? So that's pretty useful. The next step beyond that is what is being, I think, kind of dubbed as FactoryTalk Cloud or FactoryTalk Analytics. So as we've kind of seen, kind of taken, this is kind of the big, putting it all together, right? We've got the smarter I/O devices, we've got the smarter controllers, we have the smarter network devices, right? So kind of that next big thing is, and again, we've been talking connected enterprise now for some time. It's bringing everything together, connecting everything, connecting floor to your enterprise level, bringing all your various distributed plants throughout the world together. So kind of that next piece of it all is getting that data and kind of starting to become predictive, right? It's one thing to know that real-time data, right? That's important. But now you have all this data, you have all this knowledge. The next big step is, can we predict things before they actually occur and reduce downtimes, or better yet, schedule downtimes on our terms and not on terms of the of the equipment. So of course the cloud. I remember a couple of years ago we started talking cloud to our automation, to our customers, and you would pretty much get laughed at a little bit, right? And you would say, "Oh no, we're never going to go to the cloud." And we always said, hey, give it a couple years, it's going to get embraced. It's going to get embraced. Like it or not, the cloud is going to be a disruptive force in manufacturing. I mean, there will always be customers, and there will always be people that will not want to put their information on some kind of cloud. But there are many customers that could see huge benefit from that, right? So the idea of the cloud now is that you have, especially thinking of like an OEM or thinking like a machine builder, right? So this, for an end user, maybe not, but for a machine builder, absolutely. You build a machine, you deploy them to your customers all throughout the world. If you had that ability now to bring that data back from that machine back up into the cloud to where you can access that anywhere at any time, you're going to become, smarter with your equipment. You're going to learn more about it. You're going to reduce that downtime, like we're saying. So again, the technology is there. It's been building up for years. So the questions are, what if, right? So, what if you could drive higher availability and throughput? You could reduce your maintenance costs, operate your machines more effectively. If you're the machine builder, what if you can learn from what's out there today? What if you can kind of become better partners to your customers, right? What if, the idea of saying, calling your customer and saying, hey, we know that machine is in a state that's, near an issue. Letting your customers know ahead of time, and improving your capability, right? So that's the vision. And where Rockwell is going to take us is what's going to be called FactoryTalk Analytics for Machines. So again, you have a device, some kind of smart device on the plant floor. There will be some kind of gateway between that device and the cloud. Then you have the cloud, right, which will be data storage, processing, dashboards, maps. And then, of course, the analytics piece, which is the, kind of that user front end, be it, being that it's a cloud tool, there really would be no additional software, right? You're looking at usually like a web interface, so it could be a mobile device or a computer. We actually have they actually had a demo, and it's still up, of what this could actually look like. So this was a demonstration that was done at the Automation Fair. And so here, again, the map, right? So we can see all of our machines that are deployed globally. We actually have something in China, apparently. That wasn't on the map yesterday. That just showed up. So if our web is going to cooperate with this, at some point we'll get to see the kind of the status of each of these machines. A simple little kind of a color-coded looking pie chart to kind of show amount of time up, amount of time down, through various explanations of why that machine is perhaps not functioning at full capacity. So looks like we'll maybe let the thing spin its wheels for a few minutes. Try to come back to that. I know we're actually a little past our time here. So last but not least is Team 1. So now, so we were talking a minute ago. We're talking cloud, as in connecting various machines all around the world to a cloud. Here, the idea of the Team 1 is about connecting your team, which is why it got its name. So this might be more geared for an end user inside of a facility type. This may not necessarily be something you would want to see deployed like machines are around the world, bringing data back to the cloud. This is more for think of your team internal to your organization. So it's an app platform that's been developed from the ground up by a Rockwell development team. And again, it was kind of a little bit of a skunk works deal. They kind of went off, took a team off to the side and said, you guys go build something, and they did. So the idea here is you're trying to marry the human data, that is your everyday operations, right? Communication to your team, to your device data. So if you could figure out how to bridge that gap, get the device data out of your equipment, and then kind of interface it with your human world, and do it in an app platform. And a couple things that's been big to this. Say, okay, let's say that's no big deal, right? We could probably do that, right? The idea of this was twofold. One was, and you'll see if you look at any of the marketing around Team One, they say 33 seconds. So the idea was if we could get you back 33 seconds in every hour, what kind of productivity saving would that be to you, right? So in a very large end user, 33 seconds per hour for every employee, that adds up to big productivity. The other thing is frictionless. You'll see the term frictionless a lot of times if you see any kind of marketing around the Team One. And the idea of what they mean by frictionless is that everybody has a phone for the most part, right? Everybody has a smartphone. And the idea is to not have to go and install some huge networking infrastructure to make this work. The idea is that behind frictionless is that everybody in this room, everybody on this call, could take their existing device and go without any need for installing anything else. And that seems like science fiction still, right? There's always like, oh, you got to have this, you got to have that, got to have that. So we'll show you what the technology that's kind of interesting that is kind of behind this. So just to kind of show some screenshots of what they're looking at, right? So you get these little widgets, I guess, that are part of the app. So like an incidents widget, chat widget, team boards, knowledge base. So what's kind of interesting is that and this is kind of the human side, right? So we can kind of see the log of what's been going on. We can kind of create some team boards and some chats between our team users. And there's a direct connection in the knowledge base, which is kind of interesting. So if you're looking at maybe a 525 drive, then it'll bring you right to the knowledge base area that might have some articles around that product. The other part is the machine side, right? So connecting to that device, getting some trend data out of that device, and then getting that diagnostic data out of that device. So you say frictionless, what's the idea here? So Rockwell has kind of partnered up with Microsoft and what they call the Thali project. And the whole idea of the Thali project is using the Bluetooth that is in your smartphones and basically making a mesh network out of it. So, there's no need for a huge amount of, wireless infrastructure to be placed in there when you can basically create a mesh with the technology that everybody just has in their pocket. So that's kind of the idea of the Thali project. And so what would happen here is that, you have your users. So I think there would be an initial sync up to the cloud, right, to kind of get everybody kind of connected in the right team. But after that, there really is no need to ever connect outside of the plant. The devices communication would all stay within the plant. And then your peer-to-peer communication, with the Thali enabled, could all be inside the facility in its own little mesh network. The cloud, at that point, would basically be like another peer in the mesh. So you can have a cloud connection, or you don't have to have the cloud at all. So interesting concept. This is, again, just getting released to the world. So right now, it is actually in the App Store. So you can go actually today, download it, and play with it. You can create a free, so there will be a period of time where it's free, and you can connect and play around and maybe make a little team, at your facility. And then at some point here in the early part of the year, there will be a subscription service, right? So it'll be like a yearly fee to enable the Team One. And I think later in the year that Bluetooth mesh capability comes in. So we'll definitely have more about this as we, as it kind of gets further along. I showed you the blog post a minute ago, so and I'll send out the link to all the attendees today. But all these videos, if you want to learn more, there's a lot of videos and information that we'll have up there. And our final plug is next year, Automation Fair 2017 will be in Houston. So we invite all of our, it's not too early to start planning to go, right? So there are dates set for it. I think it's like the week of November, like the 15th and 16th is set. So you will definitely see more. Being that the Reynolds Company is the host for this upcoming year's Automation Fair, you'll definitely see a lot of information from us. And we hope to get everybody over to Houston. And finally, we want to wish everybody a happy holidays and a wonderful new year. Be safe and hope everybody gets to spend some downtime here over the Christmas break and enjoy time with friends and family. And we look forward to seeing everybody here next year, 2017. So with that, I know we ran a little long and we had some network issues, so I apologize for all that. Any questions? We will give a chance to. We threw a lot of futuristic stuff at you, so take time to absorb it. All right, with that, I want to thank Chris for joining us in Houston, as always, and Bill, and everybody have a great holiday season, and we will see you next year.
Merry Christmas.